We've both been focusing on PSPS for a while now. Doberman is just wrapping up a contract with a tribal nation on the coast that we feel very honored and lucky to work with them. They reached out to us for PSPS, and so we've been involved really heavily in that process. We've worked with a couple universities now. But in terms of your perspective in PSPS, just for our audience sake, because we have a lot of people who are not in California, obviously, can you explain like what PSPS, public safety power shutoff plans are, where they kind of came from, and then maybe you and I can just talk about maybe the applicable information that can be applied across the country, right? Like Texas, for example, that just had a major power shutoff.
Sure. So PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, has been responsible for several huge fires in California, and because of that, they have been now for the last year or two, since Camp Fire, I believe, in 2018. So starting in 2019, they started doing what they call public safety power shutoffs, which means that when there's red flag warnings, and red flag warnings are when there's dry vegetation, low moisture, possibly high winds, and really hot temperatures, that it's the highest likelihood that there's going to be a fire. So if there's a red flag warning in a certain area of California, PG&E, if they work in that area, and they work in most of Northern and Central California, they will turn off the power to that neighborhood or to that portion of the city or the county. Could be wide swaths across, dozens of miles, or it could just be centralized to certain neighborhoods. But even so, when we were on the federal team and even at the state level, their first priority when disasters happen is getting the power back on. That's the thing that causes the most amount of trouble for people in their everyday lives. Well, with PSPS, public safety power shutoffs, that's how we'll refer to it from now on, that is happening without a disaster happening. So they're creating disasters by trying to mitigate starting bigger fires. So if we can just turn off the power to this neighborhood here, that hopefully when the winds come through and our lines, slap together and create sparks, that it won't create sparks because the power won't be on. So they're trying to avoid starting another fire because they almost went bankrupt the last time from all the lawsuits that they got.
Well, they got a huge bailout. Like it was pretty messed up. But like part of the problem is that their systems are just so outdated too, right? Like they're really outdated.
We only have a few companies, power companies, utility companies that are providing mass power. PG&E is one of them. California Edison is another one in Southern California. And they also do public safety power shutoffs. They just don't call them that, but they've been doing that for a little while now. But what we found is that it causes the biggest problems, and this should be obvious, but for those who have access and functional needs, people with disabilities, and people who have medical needs, like they can't sleep without certain machines. They can't, they're on dialysis. They need a charger. They need whatever it is for whatever medical device that they need to live, or they need it to charge their computer so they can communicate with others, or so that they can talk, so that they can move around. And so this past week, I was on a call with 211, which is a number you can call in California that, and maybe in other states as well, that you can call that can connect you to social services. So it was a meeting with them and a meeting with a group from PG&E to talk about how they can fund local community organizations to potentially provide people with hotel rooms when there's a PSPS, only people with access and functional needs. There's another big issue with food when that happens. So Kincaid Fire 2019 in Santa Rosa, there was like 200,000 people evacuated Santa Rosa, but also there was PSPS. So everybody's food, and it was for 5 days. So everybody's food in their refrigerator and their freezer went bad. That's something that affects everybody. The PSPS kind of levels, doesn't matter just like disasters. It doesn't matter your class or your income or anything, kind of levels the playing playing field for people. But for AFN specifically, people with access and functional needs, we're now in the planning process of figuring out, okay, when that happens, can we get them a hotel room? And one big part of the conversation that I brought up was, well, that's a Band-Aid. Putting them in a hotel room is a Band-Aid, and that costs a lot of money over time. And they're going to keep doing PSPS for the next 5 to 10 years, at least. Maybe they'll just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So I brought up the idea of, well, as a good mitigation strategy, why don't we look at getting these people a generator? They run, $1,000, the ones that we usually get for people. Well, why don't we get them a generator and teach them how to use it? That way they don't have to leave their home.
Yeah.
When you remove someone from their home, it's already a stressful environment if they have to evacuate. But if they have to leave, they don't even have to evacuate. They have to leave because their power is off. And you're an able-bodied person that's still, did I grab everything from home? Kind of stressful. Well, now you can't fully take care of yourself on your own. You rely on other people, and it's a much scarier, stressful environment when you have to go to a hotel. I just don't think it's the best solution, but it's something that we want to be part of. So we're talking about being part of that, and getting reimbursed by PG&E or by the sublease, or not the sublease, the subgrantee, for how to do that.